on a kind of a thought experiment. And for most people listening, that's all it will be. But for others, it might actually stimulate something even deeper than that. But there's a new pope in town, an American guy, right? Okay. What's the significance of that? Well, maybe nothing. But did you know, well, let's put it this way. What would happen if some evidence was discovered in the not too distant future proving that Islam is a total fraud? So sort of running along the lines that we've described. Archaeological, paleographical, I don't know. But some evidence is discovered to show you that there's really, that all the things that you know about the Quran, about Mecca, and even about Muhammad, right, is utterly bogus. And this is found by Muslim scholars, or at least acknowledged by them. In the near future, this actually happens, shaking the Muslim world to its foundations. Wouldn't go so far as to say that Muhammad himself didn't exist. No, I'm talking more about the dating. That Mecca didn't exist. That the Quran didn't exist in the way that it's shown. That there were in excess of 700 different Qurans, not one. And that through the years they had to be whittled down to only 30. And it was only in the 1980s, somewhere like that, that one was decided on. And that most Muslims don't know about that. And all these other contradictions. But then even more so, some evidence, this is not far-fetched, could be released, just like when the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi libraries were discovered, and the Apocrypha were discovered by Christian, to shake the Christian world. What happens if finally somebody from within the Muslim world discovers that the whole thing of Islam is a 100% fraud? Stranger things have happened. And this is accepted by imams and accepted by the most senior Jewish Islamic scholars. It's accepted. They're confronted with it and they accept it. And Islam goes through a fucking plutonic meltdown. Do you think that the Muslim hordes will just become atheists when they're forced to throw down their religion? No. No, they won't. They will become Roman Catholics. Mark my words. As many of them do today when they get sick and tired of Islam. Right? As they do today. The first realm of conversion for a Muslim is not to become an atheist or a Protestant. It's to become a Roman Catholic. And we've just laid out a podcast here showing you that it was the Vatican that created Islam. Well, do you realize that these millions and millions and millions of Muslims, should this scenario happen, they will join the ranks of the Catholic Church? Now think for a minute. Do this thought experiment with me. All these migrants that have been pouring across the English Channel, that infest all the 4- and 5-star hotels, they get a big fat checks in their pockets, all the free cell phones, the free TVs, all the police support and the government support and the subsidies, right? That fill the dentist's office and the hospitals so that you and your children can't get fucking treatment, and all the rest of it, getting the houses while ordinary natives can't even find a roof over their head. All of this, it's brewing, as we know. Countries in the West are getting sick of this. Yeah, but wait. What will be the West's reaction when these very same Muslims drop their belief in Islam and become converted to Roman Catholicism? What would be the reaction of the West? Would you still react to them in the same way? Or would you give them amnesty and let them stay? Now follow it on for a minute. Everybody has noticed that Catholic countries like France have been jam fucking packed. Spain too, Portugal too, few Orthodox countries like Greece and whatever. But mostly it's these Catholic countries that have let these people in, these migrants. And they're mostly males, young males. That's why there's a worry. And we know that their behavior is totally reprehensible. All these things we know. But open the mind. Think ahead. If some discovery was made that showed that Islam was bogus, these people all over the world would be faced with this. That the very Quran, the book that they really don't even know a lot about what's in it, is just, they'd have to trash it. Now, of course, we know that there'd be a major crisis of faith. This would be seismic. It would be huge. But in the aftermath, after things calm down a bit, and people are losing their faith, what do you do then? You think they're going to go and become Jews? That those ethnic hatreds will just evaporate? No. I'm predicting that these people are much more likely to become converted to Roman Catholicism. And if that is the case, well, the demographic of Roman Catholics in the world is going to explode. But then at the home base position, what is going to be the reaction of white people to these immigrants now? Well, it'll be the same as our reaction to Poles or to other Slavs that came here first. Before the immigrants got here, right? The Browns, Roman Catholic immigrants were the first to come in mass in the late 20th century to fill up the factories and to work in the West. And they were accepted without a bother, even in some very, very staunchly Protestant areas of Britain. There was almost no reaction against any of them because that was the thin end of the wedge. First, you bring in them so that you tenderize the population, and then later you bring in the ones that would cause a bigger reaction. But now generations have changed, and you won't get as much pushback. And that's exactly what happened. But if something is still waiting for us in the future, something incredible, something seismic, something so far out that the human mind at this point couldn't conceive of it, then what? All those single young men that come over in the boats, that flood Germany, that flood Sweden, if they converted to Christianity, essentially, how would the West react? Would you be deporting them then? Would you still carry on with that policy? Or would you give them amnesty? You gotta think of it for yourself. What would happen? Would there be any deportations then at that point? And what would be the feelings and the thoughts and the minds of the new Pope and his coterie over there in Rome? Wouldn't that not be a coup? Would that be something that wasn't worth waiting for? Wouldn't that be something that would be absolutely tremendous in your favor in terms of world history and geopolitics? Well, I happen to think it's possible. And do you know something? It's already happening. Crown Prince Salman, you know, the one in Saudi Arabia that Mr. Trump went out to visit a few months back and they had a great old time. He has already openly admitted that he knows that there's no basis for their religion. Did you know that there are already top scholars and even imams that are openly telling admitting that also? It's already begun, folks.
Well, I was doing a live, and fuck me, Mercury retrograde. It cut out, and what it actually was my monthly internet here in Thailand reached its month, so it cut out. And anyway, I will try that StreamYard again. It's good, but it's it's just the Wi-Fi. But yeah. Anyway, what I wanted to say was like that Michael Tsarion video. Fuck me, it was and look, I was very lucky, and I don't know if it was just meant to be, but like I watched the whole video, and it's now private, so I shared it on my Telegram, and you can't watch a full video anymore, so that must have been a mistake by them. But I guess not being a subscriber to Unslaved, I was lucky enough to see the whole thing. But it's given a new element that's put a lot of things into context. Everything that we've been talking about the last few years about the build-up of particularly Muslim migrants into the West. And I know, like, we had this march in Sydney on the weekend, and like, mate, I'm as fucking pro-Palestine as anyone. And I've said this before, this like the sign and synchronicity that I got that initially is why I started doing videos was this painting or this drawing that I don't tell the whole story again because I've told it before, but like it was a symbol of the Palestinian man throwing the stone in 2018 in the March of Return. And you know, like I actually went to a Palestinian march then in Prague. It would have been end of 2018, and mate, you couldn't get anyone to talk about this, and not to say like I was onto it or anything, but like it was just, and same as 2014, that operation, what was it called, Cast Lead, or whatever the 2014 one was called. Like even the left-wing media now is very much pro-Palestine. All the left-wing establishment governments are now officially recognising Palestinian statehood. Now, even in the past, this was something that the left and the right would fundamentally agree upon, that they would never go that far. You had people like Jeremy Corbyn, that was actually one of the best resistance, and one of the best politicians for speaking up about the issues of Palestine. And he did so for decades as a backbencher in the UK Parliament, and then he eventually got to the front position to become leader of the Labour Party in the UK. And everyone's like, fuck, this is good, because, you know, he was supposedly this anti-establishment person. And then what happened when Jeremy Corbyn finally got to be leader? Everything that he said that was pro-Palestine, he reneged on, and then developed the establishment view. And that was always the case. It's always been the way. And now it's changed.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance.
Israel's actions are completely unacceptable. It is outrageous that there be a blockade of food and supplies to people who are in need in Gaza. We've made that very clear by signing up to international statements. I made it clear in a discussion that I had with the President of Israel, President Herzog, in Rome just days ago. I made it very clear that Australia finds these actions as completely unacceptable, and we find Israel's excuses and explanations completely untenable and without credibility. People are starving, and the idea that a democratic state withholds supply is an outrage.
And why? And it's because you're saying, like I mentioned this on the live, do you think Albanese, Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron give a fuck about Palestinians? Do you think that? And especially Emmanuel Macron, who's a Rothschild banker, that Israel was created by the Rothschilds, and now he's recognising Palestinian statehood. Can you see there's something else going on here, right? And the establishment, as I'm saying with this march that happened in Sydney, yes, it's great that people share their voices, but you're so being manipulated. It's somewhat organic and very much exactly what they want. And this is what I said, I was posting today, and actually I kind of want to go into that a bit too, because like what Michael Tsarion was talking about, and he's been talking about it on his Unslaved podcast, and I've only seen several clips from it, but it's absolutely fascinating, and he calls this like Islamo-communism. And like the creation of Islam by the Roman Catholic Church.
The Vatican desperately wanted Jerusalem because of its religious significance, but was blocked by the Jews. Another problem was the true Christians in North Africa preaching the gospel. Roman Catholicism was growing in power and would not tolerate any opposition. Somehow the Vatican had to create a weapon to eliminate both the Jews and the true Christian believers who refused to accept Roman Catholicism. Looking to North Africa, they saw the multitudes of Arabs as a source of manpower to do their dirty work. The Vatican wanted to create a messiah for the Arabs, someone they could raise up as a great leader, a man with charisma who they could train and who would eventually unite all the non-Catholic Arabs behind him, creating a mighty army that would ultimately capture Jerusalem for the Pope.
Now this I subscribe to for a multiplicity of reasons. Because this Vatican not only wanted to suppress the Jews and get Jerusalem back.
Now he's got this theory, and I think he's kind of onto it, that all these migrants that come into the West that would convert over particularly to Catholicism, and he mentions the fact now that we have an American Pope. But if you look at especially like the Q posts and stuff like that too, the direction in which it's going is the exposure, and especially now what's coming out with the Russiagate stuff, the exposure is, and I've been saying this for a long time, is Obama's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, Huma Abedin's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is actually Clinton's ties, and then it's going to go into the Uranium One deal. The Uranium One set up by Clinton and Obama, and the whole point was that Obama, who was his mentor? I can't remember, this Marxist mentor that he had from inception, the plan to destroy America. And we've seen this go into like a massive pace from when Biden kicked in. And I think this is what, like, because Trump is not part of this Islamo-communist group. Trump absolutely has ties to the Zionists, but I think he's kind of, I think he's going to turn on them too. And I'll show reasons for that later. But they're different factional groups. People just think that there's this all-encompassing one centralized figure that's controlling the lot. And to a degree, yes, there is, but then there's also factionalized groups. And it's the same with like Muslim terrorist groups in the Middle East. Yes, it's like the CIA that was called Al-Qaeda, that was named Al-Qaeda, meaning the database, or the CIA database of the former Mujahideen fighters, that was funded by like people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, people that set this up, like a massive Zionist. So you have these old Zionists like Brzezinski and stuff like that actually set up, you know, that were funding the Mujahideen, and that became Al-Qaeda, and then they continued that funding through like George Bush Jr. and then Obama, who then was funding ISIS and funding the Muslim Brotherhood and all these kind of things. But those ones, the mercenary terrorists on the ground, they are religious fucking fundamentalists. They believe it. Yeah, of course they have assets in there that are purely agents. It's kind of like the 9/11 thing where you had like Muhammad Atta, and Muhammad Atta was supposedly like a strict Muslim that was eating like bacon and egg sandwiches, fucking strippers and snorting cocaine. This guy was like, he was a fake Muslim. But they do recruit. That's the whole point. You radicalize groups and then you recruit them, and then you mass fund them and arm them, right? And these are some of the people that they were getting to instigate these wars. And the whole point that what Tsarion was saying is that they created Islam to be a de facto for the church to come in and capture Jerusalem back in the day. And I would actually say to set up for this moment in time now too, where you've got a massive cultural war that is is like a tinderbox getting ready to blow. And there's a lot of the stuff that we've been talking around the shrine and all that kind of stuff is absolutely going to relate into this too. Even the symbolism of the shrine and just being like, if you take away all the occult stuff and it just being World War One, this was Australia, the horsemen that came in and liberated Palestine, that were fighting against the Ottomans, the Arabs, back in the day, and everything. And then you got the whole West that's trashing everything Australian. I was just talking to a friend from Sweden, and she said, like, Sweden's like fucking, it's out of control. The immigration's absolutely out of control, and it's the same in Australia. And it's not that I'm against immigration, but and this is what people are going, oh yeah, all Muslims are good people. It's not about that. It's, you're fucking pawns in a fucking game, and there should be an absolute halt to all immigration in Australia, but particularly Muslim immigration. And it's just because the purpose of it is to destroy national identity. There's many purposes, but the main one is to destroy any sense of national identity. And they've done this to all the Western and particularly Christian nations. Now, those who listen to me know I'm not a fucking Christian, but that is part of the zeitgeist of Australia. That is part of the culture. That is part of Western culture, and if those things do change over time organically through through experiences and things that happen, then fair enough. But it's the flooding of migration. It's out of control, and people go, "Oh, Muslims are good people." Of course, they're fucking good people, but they're absolutely throwing in elements of terrorist cells in here too. And like Trump kept saying, that 100% chance there's going to be a terrorist attack in America. And anyway, so the point. So yes, and it tied in with what Jason has been saying too. And we've reached like this peak now with it, like the whole second seal stuff. It reached a ridiculous point that in Australia we have like Jacinta Allen putting out machete bins now too. Now for me, this is the most ridiculous story, and people are seeing this across the world going, what the fuck is going on in Australia?
Police stations across Victoria will become machete drop-off points as part of a 3-month amnesty. But as Ollie Haig reports, there's concern the location will deter young offenders from surrendering their weapons.
Outside the Victoria Police headquarters on Spencer Street, a purpose-built bin for a weapon wreaking havoc.
This is very important. Those knives, those machetes, create enormous damage.
Come September 1, it will be illegal to own a machete, and this is where Victorians are being asked to drop them off during an amnesty period that will run until November 30.
We've done this because we want to get these knives off the streets, because these knives destroy lives.
The bins will be at major country police stations across Victoria, from Warrnambool in the west to Mildura in the north.
Why are they putting out, like, why would you even do this? But for me, it's programming. They just want to use the word machete into the media. And they've been doing this for a long time, but they want to place the word machete, always putting that in there. And so this even highlighted even more to a global audience, because this was such an international story, because of how fucking stupid it was. And it's because in the Red Horseman, the second horseman, the Red Horseman, and the second seal of the apocalypse, where he rides with the sword. It says a great sword. And Jason's explained before that great is not the size of the sword. It's great is a word for its expenditure, how far reaching it is. And that's the definition of a seal, is it's something that impacts everywhere globally. It's like World War II wasn't necessarily a seal, because it wasn't, there were isolated pockets of the world that weren't involved in that war, and that wasn't something for them. But COVID was, because it was something that affected everywhere, and the second seal will be too. And this is why I think it matches into what Ole Demigard says about the 36 cities being hit in 36 hours or whatever it was. It will be an orchestrated attack. I've said this so many times now, and I've said years ago, even before the October 7th thing happened, I was saying they're going to blame Iran, and they're going to show that the funding from Ukraine was all the laundering money from Ukraine was going to Iran, and they're going to show that it was there to create a bomb. And now you've got Trump saying that he's sending a nuclear missile over to the UK, and I think the two targets are going to be New York City and London. So anyway, but yes, they keep putting out that word machete, because in the Greek translation of Revelation John in the Bible, is Machiara, which is machete. So the second horseman, the red horseman, carries a machete. So I think it's just putting that into the consciousness of the public. But look at why. Like, you got people like Penny Wong, Anthony Albanese, Keir Starmer, Macron, all these others in the West that are, all saying, we need Palestinian statehood, Israel's acting, all these kind of things, which is no fucking shit. But there's an ulterior motive here too, because what and the ulterior motive, what I think is going to happen, and this will be the flip, is it's actually going to expose the Western governments, particularly the left-wing Western governments, that have orchestrated, they haven't orchestrated, but like on the surface level, they have been the ones that have allowed mass migration in. And when it comes, if there is a massive attack in the Western nations, and it is so-called Muslim sleeper cells, then who's the public going to turn on then? They're going to turn on the left-wing government that's allowed this to happen. The other part of it too is, if you're someone like Trump's faction, and believe me, they are at war with this other faction. If you're someone like Trump's faction, and forget all this Trump's a Zionist, all that kind of fucking shit. If you just if you had like these massive attacks in the West, what is that the government has done now? If the government has let in a mercenary army, a sleeper army, into the Western countries, and it comes out as such, it is eventually exposed that yes, they have allowed this mercenary sleeper army into the West that have orchestrated so-called military attacks in the West. What is that? That is a war crime, and that is, and that can be charged as such too. That's going to show that that is a foreign invasion, and it's the exact same theme now that it's going with Obama, and what they're showing with the Russiagate stuff is that this, and Tulsi Gabbard's come out and suggested this is treason. I think she's used the word treason.
Today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people.
And what is treason? They're going to show that, and especially the 2020 election was a foreign intel and military coup of the United States of America, right? So it's all going to lead eventually to a military response, and I think this is where we're going. But and it also ties into that fucking dickhead that the guy that was the face of The Voice. I can't remember what his name is. A Torres Strait Islander dude, apparently.
I think that it would make sense to do that. Obviously, I was a big supporter of a constitutional voice. It must be something that's recognised by government, whether that's through legislation or through a commitment. Even treaties are important ways to do these things. But they're all important things that we can achieve and we should achieve. There's a fight against disinformation as we do these things, so there needs to be the courage from leaders and also from our allies in the Australian public to push against that disinformation that'll undoubtedly come. For example, in Victoria, as they progress treaty.
He hooked up with that Mark Liebler, and he actually co-authored or authored the Voice to Parliament, supposedly done by the Aboriginal people, but it's done by this Jewish solicitor who just went over to Israel and did an event with Rabbi Shmuley, and he then brought over Nova Peres Kneebone as his special guest. So, but the point of that is that Australia's is being sold out on every level. And yes, of course, like, you know, the Chinese communists and stuff like that, we know like China was actually set up by fucking by like Nixon and Rockefeller and all them, so it was actually set up by Zionists themselves. But that's the whole thing too, because you actually have the Rothschild faction, which are Jewish, and you have the Rockefeller faction that are Jewish, but they're kind of two arms of the same bird, but they are factional as well too. But it just tells you in itself that China was also set up by the Zionists, but it's not like they kind of do work independently, but it's like baiting every single one of them to create a crescendo moment that they want to orchestrate this global conflict. And ultimately, I don't think that is where it's going to go. But the last one, well, it will to a degree, and like everything I said, it's going to be flipped. And the best case now too is like people like Brennan, like it's a real possibility now. I know people think it'll never happen. Like, it will fucking happen. Obama will be arrested. He'll be indicted soon, I think. Obama will be arrested. So will Brennan. So will Comey. So will McCabe. So will many others. But like, with the John Brennan one, now it's came out here too that they said supposedly they had 17 intelligence officers that met with Obama, and that they orchestrated this thing to say against Trump that went against the official intelligence of like the intelligence agencies.
Hillary Clinton in the campaign and during the first months of the Trump administration, and Obama said 17 intelligence authorities have sworn that Donald Trump colluded with Vladimir Putin. Now we're learning that 17 intelligence authorities never said that. They said the opposite. We have people who have lied under oath. We know that James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, the CIA director, lied twice under oath, and he admitted he did. But there's no question that there's criminal exposure there. When Obama was asked about it, he just said, well, the election was very controversial.
But again, they've used number 17 again, which is the flip number, and it's going to be flipped on them. So the coup that they orchestrated too is going to absolutely come back on them. And then they use the 51 intelligence agents again for the Biden thing. And all of it was to like blame Russia, right? But they always kept saying, so people never talk about this. Like, what is the whole Russiagate? They go, well, it was Russia hacked the elections. Now, there was many different aspects of that. First, they were saying that they were influencing like online groups and stuff, and like all the Cambridge Analytica, and that it was giving certain posts on Facebook and stuff at the time. But what they really mean when they say Russia hacked the election is they meant Russia released the WikiLeaks documents, right? Which Assange said that didn't happen. And not only that, but what did the WikiLeaks documents expose mostly? Like, what were the big things? First of all, it was, we're giving clandestine support to ISIS, said directly by Hillary Clinton. And then it's the Pizzagate stuff. The wild conspiracy that every government official was not allowed to look into Pizzagate, right? And every intelligence officer was not allowed to look into Pizzagate or WikiLeaks. So apparently they would even do, because you get polygraph tests and stuff like that if you're going to make it through to be an agent for the NSA or the CIA or Department of Defense or any of those things, right? So if you get polygraph tests, and they would polygraph every single agent and come in and say, have you seen the WikiLeaks documents? And if you fail that polygraph, you won't go any further. So they were no one was to look at the WikiLeaks documents. So what is so important in there? Well, this is why, and don't get me wrong, and no one should see this any other way, but the only reason Trump came in, the only reason he was actually elected in 2016, besides, them being able to stop the rigging, which means they actually let Trump win in 2016. If they were able to get him to win in 2016, they could have got him to win in 2022. So that was all fucking part of it as well. But what was it? It was the Pizzagate stuff. I remember going fucking nuts in 2016. I was posting everyone going, holy fucking shit. I couldn't believe it, because like I said for years after I'd read Kathy O'Brien's book, and she spoke about that in the 80s, that she said Hillary Clinton was promised the presidency. She put that in her book that was written, I think the book was published like 1990. So she predicted 26 years before it happened, that Hillary Clinton was going to win the presidency. And apparently that's why Hillary never even had a speech. She never gave a declaration speech because she didn't plan one. She was always meant to win. But something happened here too. And this is what I'm going to get onto in a minute. This divine intervention thing is absolutely part of the story and is absolutely going to happen. But it's the WikiLeaks stuff. It's pedophilia. It's all the pedestrian emails, right? And then that links in as well with the Anthony Weiner laptop. This is eventually where it's going. So, and people shouldn't be concerned. And people go, oh, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Look at all the movies again. Don't say, people go, oh, why you talk about movies? Movies is fucking life, I'm telling you. And the more I would listen to Joseph Campbell at the moment, what he talks about, what myth is, and understanding myth and the importance of myth. And when I mean myth, I mean all the stories everywhere, from tribal stories to ancient Greece to Jesus to the Quran, to all of them, right? They all contain this universal message. And I'll give you a beautiful example. I don't know if people saw it, but like if they're into the AFL or not. If you're not into the AFL, just listen to this bit, because trust me, it does relate to everyone. And like football and sport in general is a mirror of spirituality and life. And I've mentioned this many times before. When you're in a game and you're in the flow, like time kind of stops when you're on the field, and you start to move with the ball, and you move with players, and you have this intuitive understanding of like where to run. I mean, like this when you're playing well, when you're in the flow, you know where you communicate with the other players, and the more you're in that flow, the better you are. And you can see so much now too, how games they ebb and flow in this momentum. It's like, what is momentum? Like, what is it? And it's like, I know times like where even when I was playing and we had a team that we should beat, and they just get it. I remember once we were like 6 goals up 3/4 time, and we had to win to get into the finals. It was 6 goals up 3/4 time, and in country football, you cannot lose from that position. We lost by like 2 goals. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And once it started getting dangerous, like we're only a couple more goals up, you're really trying. You're trying your absolute hardest. And the harder you try, the worse it gets. And that's momentum. Because there's a flow. There was a flow that we couldn't stop. It was an energetic thing. And if people saw Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, now I don't know if people know this guy, but like he's like I'm a Saints supporter, and this guy he's a phenomenal talent. He's actually a generational talent. He's only 20 years old. He could have a phenomenal career. He's only very young.
Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller is the best football player in the world. I'm being serious.
Bought a Rari, I'm rich, I ain't rent one. I'm on counter where I get my tent done. If she asking for money, I send some. Get her hair and her nails and her hips done. All the trucks BP, we got 10 on. When you talk about a real one, I been one. If you point out a op, I'ma spin one. We get volume on belt, nigga.
He could get one of, if not the biggest AFL contracts next year. He's that good. They're talking about him possibly being a $2 million player. But this was actually the biggest comeback in VFL AFL history. I think it was 46 points down at 3/4 time. Now, everyone will listen to me before would know I talk about the hero's journey. What do I say about the story, the length of the time of the story? The dissension, the original, so you have separation, initiation, and return are the three, if you break down the 17 stages of the hero's journey. But if you just break them into the subsections of separation, initiation, and return. The separation and the initiation, if it was an hour and a half movie you were watching, it would be, or a 2-hour movie, the separation and the initiation would be an hour and 30 minutes, or even an hour and 40 minutes. The return is like 20 minutes, it's the very end of the movie. Even like in Batman Returns, actually Returns, it's in the name of the movie. Everyone should watch that too. But Dark Knight Rises, not Batman Returns, Dark Knight Rises. That's like a 2.5 hour movie. The Return's probably the last maybe 25 minutes. And what's an AFL game? 2 hours, right? So for 3/4 of the game, St Kilda had reached the abyss, the belly of the whale, rock bottom. There is no hope, absolutely. And I was at my mate's here in Thailand, we're watching it, Matt's, and we're just kind of glancing, and then we looked the third quarter time, and they went bang, they went bang, they went bang. They were 7 goals. Now, people don't know AFL, 46 points is more than 7 goals down. in a quarter. More than 7 goals down. It's never happened before, ever. And the mathematical possibility of coming back from that, if every single VFL and AFL game that's ever been played for 100 and whatever years, 120 years, I don't know how many that would be. There's hundreds every year for over 100. So there's thousands, if not 10,000 games. So it'd be a 1 in 10,000 chance, even less, that this was any possibility that there could be a comeback. And that's what I'm talking about, this divine spark and divine intervention that is a part of the story. This is going to be part of our story. But this is why I bring this up, because people go, oh, that will never happen. We never win. The criminals always win. It's a corrupt system. Mate, I'm telling you, actually, I'll play this one here. Listen, this is really interesting. And there's this guy talking about women. They did a study, and they would put like a scar, like a fake scar on women's face, and they're going for a job interview, but they'd actually remove the scar before they went in. And the women would report back after the job interview that they felt discriminated because of the scar on their face. Little did they know they didn't even have the scar, right? But they had the belief and the perception that they had the scar.
They did an experiment with a group of women, and they put scars on their faces, and they told these women that they're going into a job interview, and the purpose of the experiment is to find out whether people with facial disfigurements face discrimination. They showed them the scars in the mirror. The women saw themselves with these scars, and as they led them out of the room, they said, we're just going to touch it up a little bit. And as they touched it up, they removed the scarring completely. So the women went into the job interview thinking that they are scarred, but actually being their normal selves. And the result of the experiment is that those women then came back reporting massively increased level of discrimination. Indeed, many of them came back with comments that the interviewer had made that they felt were referencing their facial disfigurements. And this is why I think this ideology of victimhood is so dangerous, because if you preach to people constantly that we're all oppressed, that we're all being discriminated against at different levels.
You are who you believe yourself to be, and your perception and how you see yourself is how you will interact with the world. And it is so fucking true, and that is just a perfect little example of how that is. And this is what happened with the St Kilda thing. There had to be, everything had to go perfectly, the perfect kicks. And like Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, like this guy's, the execution of his skills and that, unbelievable. Even within the last few minutes, he had to take a beautiful hanger, like land perfectly, kick the goal from 40 odd metres out. But then, even then, so that they tied the game, and it was impossible just to even tie. And then, a Melbourne player, Clayton Oliver, missed up the other end with about a minute to go. Missed everything. If he got a point, they couldn't have won even. So everything had to go perfectly. All the probabilities and possibilities of infinite possibilities that could have occurred within that game, everything crescendoed into this last minute. And so he kicks a goal and there's 8 seconds remaining on the clock. To get a clearance with 8 seconds to go, kick it down, take a mark and kick a goal, again, like the possibility, almost impossible. It's about 4 seconds by the time the umpire throws the ball up and then it lands. You got 4 seconds, basically. It would have to be an instant kick. It's impossible. But there's a free kick paid for a centre square infringement. And then, so he's got 8 seconds, and he does a perfectly executed kick, and then who does it go to? It has to go to Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, who has sprinted all the way down and takes like a courageous mark. Going backwards, like unbelievable. It's been one of the most freakiest things I've ever seen in football. People who don't understand football, it looks like a very simple mark what he took at the end, but it was a succession of events, and the fact that he just like stamped himself, and like you've never seen anyone within the flow of the game as that. That was the most beautiful example. And this is what I say, that football is life. It's everything is life. That's part of the microcosm and the hologram, that everything is an expression of it. And what it was a slight moment, an example to show you that anything is possible. And that's what it was. It was the making the impossible possible.
In the last 30 seconds, he goes, boys, get out the forward line, kick it to Naz. I'm going to take a hanger and take this game by the scruff of the neck, because that's exactly what he did. And to top it off, he shows his leadership qualities when he goes to Rowan Marshall and he says, kick it to me. I'm going to run here. I'm going to run to this spot right here, Rowan. All you have to do is just kick it to me, and I'm going to win us the game. Forget HBK, forget TDK. It is Messiah the Messiah. Pay every cent you've got to the Wang.
Hero's journey. It was a hero's journey within a football game. How did that happen? And that's always part of the story. Every single story you look at, that's like the resurrection. It's over. It's over. First you had like the ordeal at 3/4 time, and then like it got to like late in it. We done really well, because there's always this succession of wins. Bang. You're just about to achieve that last goal and something happens. And that's what it was like with St Kilda. They're like, goal, another goal, another goal, another goal, another goal. You're like, fuck, can they do it? Maybe they can, maybe they can. That's why I talk about the Happy Gilmore one. They do this montage where he's like, he's getting there, he's getting there, he's getting there, he's getting there, bang. Something stops at the last minute. And that's what it was. But then it was this fucking final resurrection. And they kept calling it, get this for synchronicity. His name's Messiah, and they're calling him Messiah, the Messiah. Literally, it came in, and I'm not saying this is people like think, oh, this is scripted or planned. It's not. This is just like the beautiful. This is like the universe like winking. It's unbelievable. I had one the other night. I was talking to someone, and they were talking about how they judge their neighbours and stuff like this. And they were talking about like literal neighbours, like they judge them and stuff. I'm like, yeah, we kind of all do that. And then I literally start watching a video straight after it. The very first thing he talks about, he brings up this Matthew chapter 7, verse 3 to 5 in the Bible. And this is what he was speaking about. This is the first thing I heard straight after I heard her say that. He said, why, this is what Jesus says, speaking on the Mount, why do you see the speck in your neighbour's eye, but you don't notice the log in your own? Or how can you say to your neighbour, let me take the speck out of your eye, while there's a log in my own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your own neighbour's eye, right? This is why the Bible's magic, man. And that was just like, when you have a synchronicity like that, like we're literally just talking about judging neighbours, and then I get this one, hear this quote from Jesus, or from the Bible, and I hear it straight after. When you have that moment, you just smile. I'm just laying in bed going, like, I can't believe it. Like, what is this? Like, I think we know what it is, but like, what is this reality? Like, it's unbelievable. It shows you the power of the human being. So anyway, it's amazing how you can find truth and you can find the story everywhere. And it was in this AFL game, and it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I'm glad I saw that last quarter, because I remember where I was where I saw that. It was that epic. So anyway, last one is we are starting SkyDive Conference Thursday, so you've literally got 1 day. If you want to join, I guess if you want to come in late, you'll have to email or message myself or Madeline if you want to come in late. But like Thursday is just the intro. So yes, if any latecomers coming in, you can come in. So we start Thursday, and it's twice a week, every week for the next 9 to 10 weeks, and it's it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be really interesting. We've got a lot of old people back, and we've got like attendees or members. We've got a lot back, and we've got some new people as well too. So I'm really looking forward to people putting in and enjoying the space and seeing where it goes, and just because there's a lot of learning that comes from it, and it's just learning. It's learning through sharing and opening up different layers of like stuff that we thought we knew, and just coming in with with an open heart and an open mind, and I think that's all you need, really. So I think we're in a good place. So yes, I'll probably do a big one talking about Palestine stuff, but it's like, what was the word Madeline was using? Misguided care? No, that's the wrong thing. What does she call it? Oh, anyway, fuck, it doesn't matter. I've gone too long. All right, come join Scott Earth Thursday. You got one more day to get in, so hopefully see you there.
Patterns are what we do. We repeat patterns in tones and chords and things of that nature. So it's easy to pick patterns out when you get used to noticing patterns both in yourself and otherwise that lead to disintegration. Call it your shadow. You know, we have a shadow in overall society as well as in ourselves. We have to become aware of these patterns, make sure we're not propagating them in our own lives. You know, fix the inside before you can fix the outside. You have no business telling the world what's wrong with it if you have everything wrong in yourselves.
My beliefs are so powerful and also so dangerous because, you know, belief is based in dogma. Knowing is based in knowledge.
Of the emotional world, to come back to myself, free from guilt and free to just whatever the universe sends my way.
Astrology isn't predicting the future. It's actually showing the merits and demerits of the soul.
Superiority and the hatred of men. This pathologization of masculinity from their family obligation and responsibilities.
This is how it works. That has to happen this way. If you ask why, but why? Well, because of this, but why? You had ample opportunity for any other number of doors to create, to open, to walk through that was already there. It's unlimited.
Simply is a natural form of language. Just as body language expresses our feelings and who we really are, well, reverse speech does that too. It enables us to see who we are on the deepest level.
I can name it. We call it Yagorigi. And the reason is because we sing it. We sing it in our songline. And there are things that our songlines capture from the old times, you know?
You have the wrong idea about the Matrix. The Matrix is the womb. Oh, artificial womb. Huh.
The Academy presents Sky Earth Conference 5, commencing August 7th. A 9-week private conference for those intent on reclaiming independent thought and deepening their ability to think critically beyond consensus, guided by the practice of synthesizing dialogue.
Synthesizing dialogue is a guiding principle underpinning the Sky to Earth Academy conference. It is a practice of inquiry that weaves together diverse and at times contradictory perspectives, experiences and worldviews through conversation, storytelling and collective exploration. Not to reach consensus, but to expand perception, strengthen discernment and refine individual clarity. Each week of the conference, respected researchers and thought leaders from around the world share perspectives to challenge, inform and expand perception, while participants have the opportunity to engage directly, posing questions, testing ideas and exploring their own inquiries with those who have dedicated years to developing their understanding. In an age engineered to distract, divide and obfuscate, this space offers a dedicated interval to study, question and think in good company. Conversing with others on the same path, debriefing ideas together, and cultivating a shared commitment to truth through synthesizing dialogue.